Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the Insight Interview Series. I'm Jared Paben, Associate Editor at Resource Recycling Magazine, and I'm here with Elisa Seltzer and Matt Flechter, and we're going to be talking about their work in Michigan. So thanks to you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Before we jump into it, I wanted to mention for folks out there that you can maximize the video by clicking the kind of bracketed square in the lower right. And also, if you have questions, you should put them into the comment box. And I'm going to try to get to those throughout our conversation. So if something pops in your head, then put it in the comments box. Now I'll tell you a little bit about our interviewees. Matt is the Recycling Market Development Specialist at the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, which is pronounced EGLE. And I'm embarrassed to say it actually took me a little while to figure out that the EGLE is pronounced EGLE. But it was formerly known as the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. He's also worked as the recycling and composting coordinator for the department, and altogether he's actually worked at the department for over 20 years. And he's a former board member for the Michigan Recycling Coalition and received an environmental science and management degree at Michigan State University. Elisa is a senior consultant at Resource Recycling Systems. She joined in March of 2019 after a successful career as Public Works Director for Emmett County, Michigan. Her 30 years of experience in the public sector includes funding, implementing, and overseeing resource recovery programs, including recyclables collection, food scrap collection, compost operations, MRF operations, and materials marketing. And at RRS, she's applying her skills in team management, contract negotiation, RFP development, community outreach, and market development to help both public and private sector organizations. So, thank you again for taking the time to share your insights with us.
Thanks, Jared.
Sure.
So we've got about a half an hour. It's going to go by quick. So if we just want to jump on in, I was hoping you guys could kind of start off by talking about the NextCycle Michigan initiative and how it came about.
Sure. So it came about because RRS had a NextCycle in Colorado, but have been working with the state of Michigan for many years. NextCycle Michigan is a truly innovative approach to recycling market development in several ways. First off, it's data-driven, so we're identifying gaps across the supply chain, from access to processing to end markets. In Michigan, we prioritized these the gaps in the supply chain into 6 challenge tracks, and these 6 challenge tracks are an accelerator or an incubator process. Selected teams are supported in developing fundable projects and takes teams, communities, projects to fruition. So these teams will receive expert technical support, business plan development, data resources, and partnering opportunities to ready them for investment. Each challenge track has an advisory panel of industry and subject matter experts. They will both help select the teams and coach and mentor them throughout the process. The other thing that's unique about NextCycle Michigan is that it leverages both public and private investment to fill those identified gaps across the state to reach the state's recycling goals. So the state has a goal of 45% recycling. We've identified what it's going to take to get there in collection, in access, in processing, and end markets. And then we work with the teams to help get them there. It's also unique in that we're really designing it to meet communities, companies, and teams where they are. So whether they're shovel ready, whether they just need a small mini grant, or whether they need big partners for really big ideas, we have a place for them to go. And I think Matt can talk more about that from the state perspective.
For sure. One of the things that I'm most excited about with the NextCycle Michigan initiative is the team that we've built. We've got RRS developing and implementing. We've got Centropolis Accelerator bringing that accelerator gravitas. They've done the work before. We've got MRC, the organization that is the grassroots, the get it done organization that connects all of the different parts of the supply chain. And I'm also really grateful that we've got Elisa on here, because with your experience, Elisa, at Emmett County, bringing that to this project as it's developing, and we're creating something that meets the needs, as you said, of industry and communities. Your experience has really helped guide that and create something that's really unique.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your guys' roles or your organization's roles in the project. That way we can understand a little bit better the perspective you're bringing.
For certain. I'm the project manager, so I work at EGLE. I'm the recycling market development specialist. I oversee the contract with the partners and guide the development of the tracks and the process. And Elisa, she's the project manager at RRS, who works to ensure all the moving parts and the team that we have working on, whether it's data or track development, as are meeting the goals and the deadlines of the project.
And Elisa, you mentioned 45% recycling rate is the state target. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about the state's overall vision for recycling and how it ties into other state goals.
Sure. So the state really has a goal to build a circular economy, to create a robust recycled material supply chain, support recycled content manufacturing. The state has really strong climate goals and equity goals, which are built right into this initiative, which is really exciting and is attracting a lot of attention. And so it goes way beyond 45%. It's really about building the circular economy, that everything you use, all your packaging, your products have another life. When you're done in your home, in your business, there's a place to take it. There's someone to pick it up. It will get processed and it will become feedstock for a manufacturer that wants to use it to make something new.
Yeah, awesome. Michigan has a long history of stakeholder engagement and involvement of stakeholders in developing projects like this. That's something that's really important to me as a person, as getting our work done. And through that, markets, education, data rose to the top. And this project, this initiative hits all of those issues. And most importantly, with recycling, all of us know that there are so many important connections to managing materials differently, whether it's in water savings, air quality, but right now, equity, making sure we have jobs for all communities, and climate, making sure that we identify ways to help brands, help communities meet their climate goals, and the state meeting the climate goals. It's a really important connection. I'd say to all of our listeners today, if you're not making that connection between climate and recycling now, you should do it soon, because it's very important for telling that complete package of a story. We know for so many years we've talked about jobs and the economy and creating and protecting the environment. Now we have another tool in our toolbox to activate decision makers at the local and state level to see how recycling can meet those goals.
So you guys have already kind of touched on how this is different than a standard grants program where you get applicants to apply and some win money and then some don't win money and, bye-bye, try again later. But could you talk a little bit more about how it's different, how it's more of like almost wraparound support for the applicants? And then as part of that, kind of talk about how the money flows with a private-public partnership like this.
Yeah, for certain, money is important. Without having funds to do market development work, you're not doing any market development work at all. So that's number one. So identifying ways to activate those dollars and leverage those dollars is the most important part of what we're doing in Michigan. We know that there's going to be $1 billion worth of investment to get to our 45% recycling rate that Elisa mentioned. We know that that's not coming on the backs of state and local government alone. And the way that we can take the funding that we have and create conditions where we're attracting partners with fundable projects is the way we're going to get across that goal. So designing in that partnership platform that Elisa talked about, talking about getting fundable projects, and then a very important part of that fundable projects and what makes this different, what market development work we're doing in Michigan is different, is I can speak from experience. When we started a market development program, we said, here's our RFP, come read the RFP, fill it out, submit it, and then we select them with a scorecard, and then we say, you're selected, you're not. And the people that were not are left with, okay, what do I do now? That's not what NextCycle is. NextCycle is incubating those projects, getting the pitch down, finding those partners, leveling up those projects that we may first look at it and say, not quite there, not meeting the goals, or don't have the sophistication or the partners necessary. That's what we're doing with NextCycle. We're getting them there.
So Alexandra Miller has a good question here. It sounds like you have strong state governmental support, and that was necessary to kick off something like this. But how did you get that support, that buy-in from the political leaders?
So a couple ways to answer that. One is that we actually RRS and the state were working together back in the prior administration. So there was a governor's recycling council, up at the highest level, governor appointed. I served on that council for over 4 years. Matt was one of our subject matter experts. That is where we did the hard work of what is needed, that initial, what level investment across Michigan's infrastructure, supply chain, and end markets. RRS is based in Michigan. We do a lot of work across the country, but have a long history in Michigan, so really understand the space. And Matt is really the leadership at the state level that was driving his vision of what's needed in Michigan, how to get there, really wanted to see something innovative and dynamic. And when he saw what we did in Colorado, he's like, yeah, we want this, but more. Michigan needs more, and bring in those partners, leverage that state anchor funding. So it's a really cool process to get where we are now.
Yeah, I can't stress enough the importance of finding those issues that decision makers see as the most important, whether it's jobs or climate, as I've already mentioned, and be able to speak to the importance of recycling market development as meeting those goals. And so the way that we did that with stakeholder guidance is saying, this is the story we want to tell in Michigan. We see real investment, real dollars coming in, real partnerships, and real opportunities to move funding into action. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to secure funds through what's called the Renew Michigan Fund. There was another question that came in about how much money. So the overall money that is available for this, we are looking at about an $8 million investment in projects. But that's not to say that every state needs that amount of money to move there. This is, and Elisa, maybe you could talk a little bit about the scalability of this.
Absolutely. I mean, Colorado, NextCycle only has one track, where state of Michigan has 6. There is fewer state dollars going in from Colorado than in Michigan, but we really can scale NextCycle for what a state's needs are, what their budget is, what their market development goals are in recycling. And so the beauty is in the flexibility and the scalability.
And as far as the source of the funding, I'm assuming that it's not state general fund dollars. Is it like a tip fee increase that's funding this? Or
it's not. It's called the Renew Michigan Fund. There was a lot of work done and over the 20 years I've been involved, we've had funding discussions about how we can identify a funding source to grow Michigan's circular economy, get an education campaign, have the data, grow the infrastructure, strengthen markets. The Renew Michigan Fund was approved by the legislature 3 years ago and identifies about $15 million annually to support recycling, infrastructure, market development, planning, education. So we're in Michigan. We did a lot of work to align the leadership to see the value of recycling for Michigan's economy.
And then that Renew Michigan Fund is tax or fee supported then.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So the details, we can get that. So that actually comes through the Tax Act, where there was what was called the Wayfair tax, which a Supreme Court decision that allowed states to capture internet sales tax, and that internet sales tax, a portion of that, when that was captured, was identified for both recycling activities as well as brownfield cleanup. So that's how Michigan did.
Right, I do recall that. Okay, that's an interesting funding source. So I'm one of those people that tends to see the big picture by seeing lots of little pictures. I was wondering if you guys could kind of describe some of the projects that you've seen come in and what materials they handle, the approaches they use to handling that. Yeah.
Sure. So The first challenge track that we have onboarded that teams have been selected for is the Flows challenge track, which is for organics. Through the gap analysis, both food scraps and wood waste were identified as priorities in Michigan. We have a yard waste ban, so that's pretty much covered, but we really have gaps in our composting infrastructure and end market development. So I'll give you, there are 8 teams that are in this first cohort of the Flows challenge track. And I can share 3 with them that give an example of the diversity of teams coming in and how they meet the goals of NextCycle. One of them is a composting and sustainable solutions group in Detroit. It's a new venture bringing together 2 nonprofits, Food Plus Detroit and Georgia Street Community Collective. They're working with Wayne State University through their Office of Campus Sustainability, diverting food waste, sending it to this urban farming composting site, creating a good product and getting it back. Then the university buys it back to use on campus. So they're looking to scale that and create new opportunities that provide equity opportunities for residents of Detroit to become organic entrepreneurs and scale up the infrastructure in the city. So that's one example. That's basic, like community development of good composting infrastructure that has an end market component built in. A second one, Wormies, is a vermicomposting operation in West Michigan. And what's so cool about this, it's a minority-owned small business. They produce premium composting products from yard waste and food scraps. So they're demonstrating that you can make a premium quality compost with feedstock that includes food scraps. They are ready to scale. Their demand exceeds their supply. They create a very premium product to medicinal marijuana growers, which is a growing market sector in Michigan. So they have the site. They are looking really to scale up their business and they're primed for success. So that's a pretty cool one. And then the third one, just to show you like what the wide array is Savometrics. And this is an AI-driven sensing solution for food and ag industries to reduce production waste in vertical farming. And what's so neat about this is that, this is a totally different angle addressing food waste at the production and processing stage. So it's really a waste prevention solution using the industry Internet of Things. This solution uses sensors and AI to alert when a crop needs interventions. It can be used in food processing to reduce spoilage. And it's really, they're partnering with vertical farms in Detroit, looking to expand their customer base. So it's really an example of deploying innovation technology to avoid waste upstream, which, as we know, has exponential environmental and climate benefits. So NextCycle includes all that too.
Wow, that is a big variety. That's interesting.
Yeah. And that's 3 of the 8. So, and this is the first cohort. There'll actually be a second cohort of flows going into next year. Yep.
Oh, okay. Actually, maybe that's a good time to ask Bess McLaughlin. Her question is there a common thread for what these partners are looking for help with or have challenges with?
Go ahead, Elisa.
So in terms of the teams, when they're coming in, they're really looking, we're looking for teams where they've got something that's feasible, but they need that business plan development. They need help with customer identification, forging partnerships, funding and investment, networking, data, curated data. I mean, these are all the kinds of things that NextCycle Michigan's team will be able to support. But we also have partners that are funders, sponsors, knowledge experts. We've got lots of project partners where they're trying to solve their feedstock issues. They're trying to increase recycled content in their products, whether they're brands or trade associations. And they're also coming to the table looking for solutions and joining this larger collaboration of solving for these issues in Michigan.
Yeah, I would add 2 things. That was a great list of what those common threads are. I think maybe the answer is there isn't a common thread. There's just a lot of support that's needed at each stage, and having a tailored approach to those teams to find out what they need. For example, some are looking at what's that policy landscape look like and helping them navigate the future policy landscape as things changes, how they can ready themselves for changes as policy comes down. And then the other common thread I would say is funding. looking at how they attract additional investment, not only from the state or local level, but where we find those partners that have common goals to grow their business idea.
Amy Olbrecht has a question. What are the 6 challenge tracks again? Do you guys remember off the top of your head?
Oh, yeah. This we know. So micros are small scale solutions, or they're really big ideas that just need a little bit of funding to get over the edge. It's more than a grant program. There is support. There is networking. They're invited to other events. But micros, that track's already been launched. There are 3 cohorts this year, and awards are going to be announced soon. So they've already been recommended up. Flows, we already talked about. The third one that applications are open through next week is recycling, innovation, and technology. Those for those cool, novel solutions and market or processing. Then 3 launching this fall, recycling supply chain. Anything across the supply chain that's solving for recovery is welcome there. I2P3 is intergovernmental initiatives and public-private partnerships. So these are the public sector-driven ones that it's a county coming in, a city, a region, an authority looking to scale up, solve for a new material, or get a new system in place. And then the last one is really driven by Governor Gretchen Whitmer's strong interest in roads and building out Michigan's roads infrastructure. There's so many recycled commodities that can be used both in roads, trails, and pathway construction, and just moving the needle a little bit, using asphalt shingles, glass, compost to drive regional and state markets is a really exciting one. And all 3 of those are launching this fall.
Yes, and she said, or Elisa said, flows a couple of times. Food, liquids, and organic waste.
Yes,
that's the organic.
All organics.
Wow. So yeah, it's pretty all encompassing. There's not much that doesn't fit into that into the program.
And the sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, Lisa.
I was just going to say the cool thing is we designed those 6 tracks based on what Michigan determined it needed based on the gap analysis. Yep.
How can folks that are watching right now get involved?
So there's a website that you can go to. I just shared it in the chat, nextcyclemichigan.com. And there's a place for everyone, whether you just want to learn about it and share the word in your community, whether you are someone who's interested in helping solve for some of these issues in Michigan. We had an example where there's a company, Vartega, who went through the Colorado NextCycle, and when they saw we were starting one in Michigan, they're like, yes, we want to come to Michigan. So it's a company that wanted to come and solve for an issue in Michigan that we didn't have a solution for. And so it just shows that there's a lot of opportunity with recycling, innovation, and technology. There are companies from around the globe that are applying to become a team in the challenge. So you can get involved by spreading the word, by helping sponsor, partner, and I'm sure Matt can.
Yeah, I want to add to that. That's a great list there. One thing that is really important to me is identifying what those common needs are through brands, partnerships, organizations that are already in this space. So this is meant to be additive, not replacing those additional efforts. So what we're doing in Michigan is creating that pathway for those fundable projects. So organizations that are out there thinking, how do I inject my capital into the supply chain? How do I get material back to my packaging supply chain? How do I tell a climate story that meets my consumer demand? They can partner with us. The partnership platform, identifying what those needs are, and then we are tailoring that attraction for those teams so we can meet those needs. And so bringing in partnership dollars, partnership effort is really important to this project as well.
So I was going to ask about how data gathering factors into NextCycle, but actually Dan Weston has probably worded his question better than I did, which is, what metrics are you using to evaluate the success or the progress of the program?
So lots of metrics that go way beyond, volume and tons. Certainly climate metrics, GHG emission, reduction and mitigation. We also have equity metrics. We're really examining like who's applying, who's getting in, underserved communities, are we reaching them? So it's really a broad array of metrics. And one of the things that I feel really strongly about is that we are redoing the gap analysis every single year because things are changing. We can demonstrate success by saying we've got 3 more MRFs with additional 70,000 tons per year of capacity, and that met a need, filled a gap. But there are 3 more regions that still need regional MRFs, right, in the state. Comprehensive drop-off centers. There are clear examples, but we are tracking the metrics across the board.
And you can get a glimpse into those by going to NextCycle Michigan, the website, and look at the data that's available. So we have data visualizations that look at where those gaps are. And then we're also tracking, there's another part in there, I think we have it titled stories. And the stories are what the impact is taking place on the ground. So they're replicable. People are learning about what's happening in Michigan. They're saying, hey, that's a neat idea. I want to double down on that one or grow it or find that partner. So those types of connectivity metrics are really important. Those partnership metrics of the number of partners, the amount of funding that's leveraged is very, very important, especially to be able to demonstrate that the investment in creating the circular economy is showing results, whether it's on jobs or economic investment. Those type of tracking metrics are also built in.
And one more thing that I would like to add, if you look at those data visualizations and you're like, they missed something, it's a crowdsourcing site as well. So it serves that function. We're gathering data from a variety of sources, but we are welcome constantly revising and updating, not just annually, but as new data components come in, we can integrate them in real time.
Can you guys explain a little about how NextCycle Michigan is similar to or different from the Colorado NextCycle program?
So I think there are 2 significant ways. One is the scale and the amount of anchor funding. The state of Michigan has 6 challenge tracks where Colorado is focused solely on recycling innovation and technology. And then the other is the leveraging of other public and private sector funders to really build on, the state's anchor support and, magnify it.
So, market development this is going to be a broad question, but it's always been crucial to recycling. I guess I'm wondering, how has the topic evolved, and how should we be thinking about market development looking forward? Including how the world has changed from COVID.
Oh my gosh, yes, so many opportunities there. Now that everybody on this call, we already knew the word supply chain, but now the entire world knows the word supply chain, and that makes our job easier, right? So, being able to connect those corporate goals with of recyclability, low carbon, decarbonizing their products, moving toward a low carbon economy. That is the main difference right now in market development now than market development in the past, from what I see. I saw market development in the past was primarily focused on job and investment, and it still is. It's still an economic driver. We know it is, and we have corporate America looking at how they can invest in the supply chain so that those products are moving back into their products, so they can tell that low carbon story, or that moving plastics back into their product story. And at no time in my 20 years have I seen the level of energy and investment come forward to support that entire supply chain. Things are vastly different when we're talking about market development. And we've got other people paying attention to issues. Equity is really important. What's different now in market development is we're seeing this as a leverage tool to move investment into underserved communities, and we can highlight that work that we're doing in Michigan, and that brings in even more partners, so we can multiply that way as well. And so those are the two main differences in market development. The other thing I would say is what I was saying before is, okay, here's your market development opportunity. If you don't have it, move away. We'll catch you when you are ready. No. We're now seeing a need because we want to ramp up quickly of that level of investment, and some real opportunities there as well.
Great. Well, I wanted to toss one more question at you guys. It's one that I like asking: is what mistakes have you guys made? Because we're all human and we make them, and from those, what lessons can you share with others so that they don't make the same mistakes?
Well,
I'll go first on that,
sure.
Elisa. So I would say we have seen so much interest in this, and so being able to ramp up and support, like I just described, like that capacity to support each one of those teams as they come through and meeting them where they're at, it's a lot of work. It's difficult, and we're working within. Many of you, your listeners, are also working in bureaucratic systems that don't move very quickly. And we are looking at ramping up our speed of play. We want to move projects from idea to investment to action to results quickly. And so being able to navigate that internal process to move those things quickly is definitely a challenge. But it's also an opportunity to adjust our internal systems.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something, Elisa?
Oh, I was just going to say that, launching a program during COVID is a mistake. It's like that was a setback. We were, fortunately, we know how to work online, so things kept moving. But I think that's, I see Ross's question there, as we're closing things out, that was an obstacle, but, we've overcome it, and we are going full speed ahead.
Well, yeah, it's been a great conversation, and time flies. We're actually a little over time, but did you guys have any final thoughts you wanted to share with everyone out there watching?
I would just say I want to extend appreciation to Resource Recycling for setting this up and giving us the opportunity. And I would welcome, please give me a call if you're in a similarly situated position, or you're a brand looking at finding fundable projects. Please give us a call, because I think that we could support you and your needs, regardless of if you're in Michigan or not. I see market development and the work that we do as a national effort. It's not just a Michigan effort. Of course, I want the good stories in Michigan, but I value those partnerships that we have across states. So please give me a call. I'd love to chat.
Great. Well, thank you both for taking the time to chat with us. And next up is our Measurement Matters session. That starts at 3:15 Eastern. So I definitely encourage everyone to tune into that. And again, thank you, Elisa and Matt, for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Everyone enjoy the rest of the conference.